Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Andrea Rinkus. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you. Everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
And whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Even better, all of our guests are local small business owners who you can actually talk to and work with. You can learn more about today's guest and connect with hundreds of other health and wellness professionals through our informative and easy-to-use directory at motherhoodalliance.com.
Before we get started, keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for personal healthcare advice. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any changes based on the podcast content.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Are you ready to help your family thrive? Let's get started. Hi, we are Britt and Drea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 4-episode series with Klimek, who is a licensed pharmacist, certified hormone replacement therapy specialist, and certified functional and lifestyle clinician coach. Kim's personal journey of struggling with endometriosis, hormone and gut-related issues, stress, and multiple surgeries is what led her to seek information about root cause medicine strategies. Specifically, after her second laparoscopic surgery for endometriosis removal, she was given a book by a coworker that focused on a more natural approach to healing that truly changed her life and led her to questioning a lot more of what she was educated on in grad school regarding medicine and health. She instantly knew that she couldn't turn her back on the power of supporting the body through a more holistic approach, and now she does that for others as well. Through her business, Innate Healing Performance, Kim specializes in helping others with hormone-related issues, gut and digestive imbalances, autoimmune and chronic health conditions, and for those looking to optimize their wellness so they can live vibrant, healthy, energized lives. Outside of her professional life, Kim loves reading, cooking, researching, training for triathlons, which is swimming, biking, running races, and spending time with her family. This 4-part series with Kim is jam-packed with explanations, tips, and science behind many of the hot topics of functional medicine, as we cover Kim's health journey and an overview of functional medicine in Episode 1, Functional Medicine's Approach to Gut Health in Episode 2, Balancing Act, Women's Hormones Explained in Episode 3, and environmental toxins and their link to autoimmune or chronic illnesses in Episode 4. Kim is a super deep wealth of knowledge. She has a ton of certifications, and she is making a difference to so many people already in our area, and we can't wait for you to learn from her. So let's get started with today's episode.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. We are here with Kim from Innate Healing, and we are excited to welcome you back, Kim. We're going to be talking about the toxins in your environment today, and we touched a lot on that on the previous episodes, but we're going to dive into that today. So Kim, what are some common sources of toxins in our environment?
Definitely some of the most common exposure to toxins comes from our water, our drinking supply. Right now it's coming from different food exposures, whether foods have been exposed to pesticides, different chemicals, dyes, processed foods. There is exposure through the air even right now. And then probably one of the biggest ones is just household like cleaning products and a lot of like toiletries and beauty products for women. Those are definitely probably some of the top ones.
So the ones that you're bringing into your body, that kind of makes sense of like, oh, I want to make sure those are clean because they're going into my body. But why do we care about the outside our body ones, like lotions and stuff? How does that actually, how are they toxic? And like, how does that toxin actually transfer when you put it on your skin into impacting your internal system?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, it's often the one that gets forgotten about for sure. Because a lot of people are like, they're at a stage where they're like, oh, I know that I should have like clean drinking water, and I know that I should probably try to eat organic foods or clean my foods and try to stay away from pesticides or processed foods, or at least you should be caring about those if you're not. But the ones that are coming in externally is also something that you need to care about, because your skin is the largest organ in the body, and it absorbs so much. And so it's not even just the lotions again too. It's like perfumes and candles and things that you're smelling, because if you listen to any of our last episodes about hormone signaling, it's important because what happens is these chemicals and toxins, they basically come and sit and bind on your little receptor sites in your cells, and they, for lack of a better word, they kind of gunk them up. They just gunk them up, and then your body's regular hormones and the neurotransmitters and little chemical messengers that are normally supposed to bind in there and create that little lock and key turn, and then the cell's able to carry out its function. That's not able to happen because of these toxins and these exposures. And depending on we have different, and again, kind of getting a little science and nerdy here. There's like lipophilicity factors that affect people. So like some agents can be like fat loving or like water loving. So those help determine like how fast and quick they'll be absorbed into the body, and fat tissue. And I'll tell people too, like when we're working on strategies for like more natural weight loss support, at the end of the day, I do tell people adipose tissue is largely an accumulation of just localized toxins in your body. And so as part of the journey, if you are focusing on weight loss, you need to think about opening up these like lymphatic drainage pathways. You need to think about locally cleansing and detoxifying in an organ. And the more you're able to do that, you're going to see more restoration and health and supporting that kind of weight loss journey. But it's often a factor that gets neglected because people think about many other things other than like toxin exposure for their weight loss journey or their health journey in general.
Can toxins trigger autoimmune diseases?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Generally in the autoimmune kind of cascade, if you will, I have a little chart that I usually show people when I'm doing like gut health lectures. It comes to this, what we call like that tipping point with the glass of water, like it's, or that bucket we call, you'll see oftentimes in functional medicine, it's called a bucket of toxins, where at some point the bucket is going to become overwhelmed with this amount of toxins and it's going to tip over, it's going to spill over. And that's what can happen with an autoimmune trigger. I always kind of equate that too to my experience with like the endometriosis or my kind of viral symptoms. It wasn't actually what sort of triggered that viral cascade for me when I was dealing with the gut issues back in undergrad, and kind of my original story was a huge abundance of exposure to environmental toxins. I know because I was not practicing any type of healthy habits when I was a college student in grad school. And, you're doing all the crazy things and you're partying and not taking care of your health and eating crappy food and not sleeping. And then stress is ultimately a really big tipping point. And I remember how stressed I was in undergrad with what was ultimately what I would say that kind of tipping point or that trigger to that autoimmune kind of reaction, even in the body. But for others, it's a similar pathway. It's sort of, there comes a point, whether it's an environmental trigger, an environmental exposure, stress, that kind of just tips that bucket and turns that switch on.
So for autoimmune diseases, is it typically something that's more genetic and it's just laying dormant? So someone is more prone, they kind of already have Hashimoto's, but it's laying dormant and it's controlled and then it's triggered? Or can you actually like develop Hashimoto's from different toxins and lifestyle and all that stuff?
Both. There's definitely both. The answer to that is both. There's definitely a genetic component for some of this for people. And again, that's where you'll get some people are just like, well, it's all genetics. So we're all kind of, destined and doomed and determined to get this anyways. Right? My whole family has this, so I'm going to get this. And then they kind of just give up, right? Whereas you have this other crowd of people, and these are usually the ones who are coming to see me, who are a little bit more determined to focus on that prevention or focus on helping themselves heal through this versus just kind of going the same route that everybody else in their family has gone.
Yeah. And I think another big one that we haven't touched on yet is mold. And I'm really curious what percentage of homes have mold in them just because of a leaky window or a spot that somewhere you just have no idea that it's lurking. You have some personal experience with mold in your family too, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yep. That we could definitely have a whole podcast on mold, but I'll kind of just give you a little insight about it. There is largely a genetic component to that as well as to how someone will respond. You could have family members, for in my case, in my instance, yes, I had mentioned that my parents had a water damaged roof for many years when I was a child, and I didn't think anything of that. I had 3 other siblings. We all literally lived in the same bedroom, went to school and high school together and everything. And I just had very severe chronic allergies, chronic fatigue. When I was in my early teens, I had bladder issues, chronic yeast infections, UTIs. But none of my other siblings seemed to have that response. So it was always just, never in a million years did I ever link it to that when I was younger. But now I know because of everything I know about functional medicine. But when there is mold that is definitely either visible for sure, and then there's different types of mold for sure. There's experts in this field for sure. So I'm just kind of giving you an overview. But what I learned is that these different types of mold, when they can, but again, it's all about overgrowth. We all naturally have candida in our body. It's just when it becomes an overgrowth that becomes the problem or the burden. So what happened is I originally had candida overgrowth in my gut. And then also external exposure from they're called mycotoxins. So it's basically toxins that mold will release into the environment or into your body. And they're very, very fat soluble. So they'll kind of sit in your fat tissues and different organs. And that's why it's when people feel like they kind of feel like they're going crazy, like everything is wrong, right? They have brain fog, fatigue, constipation, bladder issues. Even another trigger for me that I realized back then was I had really chronic, blurry eye vision. And that was another sign and symptom. And then, yeah, it is when you have a little bit of overgrowth on a toenail or something like that. These are all just little signs and symptoms that your body is telling you that something is wrong. And it didn't, I didn't really put that piece of the puzzle together for me. And I do say it was definitely a foundational root cause thing, which triggered a lot of stuff in my health, going back to it. When people tend to get out of the environment where it is, they will notice symptoms of improvement. So it was once I went to college, I didn't notice as much of those symptoms. Allergies kind of started to go away, that kind of thing. But I definitely still had this overgrowth of candida in the gut, which was wreaking havoc, because that can also be very much linked to, as you alluded, Hashimoto symptoms. So I was dealing with thyroid issues and kind of that whole scenario, and that runs in my family and things like that. So they're linked to these underlying conditions, which can populate in the body, but the mycotoxins are very, very severe. So, I learned this through functional medicine, that they can affect almost every organ in the body. And when I really dove into, you can do different testing for them. I've done a urine testing, there's blood testing, but I ended up doing, and I show people all the time, through my visits, very I'm not conventional in that method. I'll show you a test or something that I've done, and I'll show you, people really like to see the data. So I did, myco testing for myself, and I had very high levels of ochratoxin A and aflatoxin A. So, and again, that's all customized. Somebody might have very different things, because I've done mycotoxin testing for people. And the mainstay to that is it takes time to heal. Let me just tell you, especially if there's mold exposure, it is not an overnight fix, and it is very much determined on your ability and willpower to follow through with recommendations and things.
So you just mentioned a couple of tests. So how does lab testing, so how does functional medicine wrap into this? So if somebody is experiencing different symptoms, it could be a part of toxicity, right? So what are labs actually testing for when it comes to toxins? Because I'm thinking about, you have all these lotions and different things like that. It's not testing for those specific particles. What is it testing for?
Yeah, it's testing for things that we mentioned on here. So kind of, you can test for glyphosate exposure. So the pesticide exposure. So there's there's one I use a little bit more too. It's called a toxin screening, where it's going to kind of assess some heavy metals or glyphosate toxicity. And let me tell you, I try not to get people too overwhelmed with it. generally this stuff is all a part of our journey. So we can focus and tackle one thing first. And as we peel back those layers, like you're going to start to see improvements in health, like throughout all this journey. But it's, how when people start feeling good, they sometimes they're ready to like explore something else, but you can only work on one thing at a time. Trust me, you can only work on one thing at a time. For example, I have silver mercury fillings. So I had gone to a holistic dentist in the Green Bay area, Dr. Brian at Howard Dental. Phenomenal. Y'all should go see him. And I had done x-rays with them, and I knew that through my functional medicine training, mercury toxicity is a thing. And I had seen that I had a cracked filling. And so there's just these times where I would exhibit like little twitching in my bloodstream. And I know that's a sign and a symptom of kind of heavy metal exposure. A lot of cognitive, issues, brain fog and things like that. So it can be linked to that. That's one component. Did I think that was my primary thing? No, I know that that's a part of my journey. I'm actually like finishing doing Invisalign, which again, people like, it's plastic in your mouth. It shouldn't be there, but we're human. So we're going to do things that we need to do, and then we can always help the body and heal. So when I'm finished with that, we'll be going to kind of get these silver fillings removed. And so that's one like area, testing for like heavy metals and then glyphosate toxicity. A huge, like an awesome test that I do that's very simple, and it's, I think, literally the least expensive functional medicine test you can ever do for yourself. It's called a hair tissue mineral analysis. And so I'm certified to read those now, but it'll actually tell you what like nutrition components you actually need for like vitamin deficiencies, nutrient deficiencies. They do have a portion where we can see if the body's pushing out particular heavy metals, that these are going to be a little bit more areas to focus on. You can do urine testing for that. I've done that for a couple clients. One client, we found she had a lot of exposure to arsenic through her drinking supply. It was like off the charts on her like urine test that we did for that. So those are just kind of some of the testing. Yeah.
So when somebody's test comes back and it's showing that they have some sort of toxicity level, what is the approach to clean their body out? Are there supplements and things that you're providing for them? Like, is this an active, here's what you need to do to get the toxins out? Or is this just creating a good environment for the body to naturally do it?
Both. It depends on how much the toxicity level is at too. Absolutely. The best and most foundational things you want to get your body doing is literally get your lymphatic system moving. We got specialists galore for that now. I am referring people all the time to the people and the specialists that I know that can help with that. We have so many. But you got to get that lymphatic system moving, because that is like our sewer drainage system, if you will. That's how toxins will be able to kind of export and leave like different organs in the body. And the number one thing is sweating, like profusely. You got to get a time where you're like literally sweating heavy for like 20 to 30 minutes in a day, where it's like pouring kind of dripping sweat out of the body. Whether you're going to do that through like movement or like a sauna. We know infrared saunas are amazing. There's so many companies and practices that'll tell you how many benefits that brings to the body. And that will help open up the lymphatic pathways too. I remember when I was really sick, I would get in a sauna and literally take me like 30 minutes to sweat. And I was like, this is not a good sign. Yeah. And I didn't know that then, but now I know it. I was like, oh, wow. But now I get in a sauna, it's like, okay, sweat a lot easier now because I got those systems opened up. People can get these things at home. I tell them, you can get like a little lymphatic drainage plate. I get on there. You can do a bouncing ball, trampoline.
I was gonna say trampolines,
yeah. All kinds of stuff. And I give them a list of these things. Through my initial visit, I'll give you all the recommendations. And you can choose what's going to fit into your lifestyle best, but you got to incorporate it, because you got to be sweating and you got to be having bowel movements. If you're not having bowel movements, you're not eliminating toxins, and they're just recirculating and staying in your body. And I learned that too. Again, all after. And so that's where a lot of people start to deal with kind of chronic health issues too, when they're not having regular bowel movements. So of course we do. We talk about that. I ask you about your bowel movements on your test, initial intake. So be prepared for that.
So what are your top 1 or 2 recommendations to help someone have more regular bowel movements if that's something they struggle with?
Get to working on your liver, 100%. Everybody's so focused on like giving their like digestive tract stimulants or laxatives or everything like that. And fiber, of course, you want good like soluble fiber, but Cause you can get, adding in like I use like a little prebiotic powder from Thorne and it's a wonderful supplement. It's called Fiber Mend, but that's not always the answer, especially if you're not having like bowel movements and you add in too much fiber, it pretty much can back people up. But the secret to having better bowel movements is going to come down to your liver. I learned that all day. You need to actually open up and detoxify the liver, get the bile flowing, because having enough stomach acid triggers your bile to release, and then bile is what moves everything through the digestive tract. And so when you're not having that release of bile and more stagnancy, and again, this country has gallbladder issues galore. Yeah. I included myself when I was younger. Again, there's a part of my journey. I had my gallbladder removed because ding, ding, ding. Again, coming back to mold toxicity, it was gunking up my bile. I kept having sluggish. I never had a gallstone or anything. They just said, you just have all this sluggish bile and it just isn't releasing. So we're going to take out your gallbladder. And that was their solution. Well, that wasn't the solution. It was actually the liver. The liver needed support and love. It needed and then again, exposure to the toxins.
And so how do you support your liver? Is that through the castor oil packs?
One way is castor oil packs. Yep. For sure. And make sure I tell people when you do those, you're hydrated, because your body will not let go of anything if you're dehydrated. So you need to be hydrated when you put them on. You can do them for about 30 to 45 minutes at bedtime while you're reading a book or watching TV. You can sleep with them too. But the other biggest things is getting nitric oxide support. You can do that through, if you follow me on Instagram, I'm probably like posting like every other day about beets, how much I eat beets and like dark, deep leafy greens, because that upregulates the methylation process, which is a detoxification process in the body. But anyways, you can increase the nitric oxide production. So you can do that by eating beets, like putting beetroots powder in your smoothies, eating things like dandelion root, radishes, arugula. Bitter foods help release digestive enzymes. And that triggers it lets your body know, okay, now we're in this digestion process. We're going to follow these steps. Chew your food, chew your food. That's another thing. Don't be rushing. Chew your food 20 to 30 times. That's going to help you better with digestion.
Can you say it again for the people in the back?
Because sit down, eat, just chew. Yep.
Oh my gosh. I remember, and again, it's just like living in this spiral of stress. I remember days where I just running from one thing to next. You got 30 minutes for your lunch break at work, right? You're running to the bank to deposit this check or whatever while you're eating your lunch, like in the car. God forbid you're getting a car crash, first of all, but second of all, your body it's not even thinking about digestion, because you're not letting it think about digestion. You're just doing something completely not even focused on digestion.
Well, digestion is supposed to be slow, right? Like it's a slow process. It's supposed to be a slow process if you're running around like a wild one.
Yeah. There's things like, people have gotten really far into like talking about like coffee enemas and things like that, which can really detoxify the liver as well. So, it's just kind of how much you're willing to try and things that you can read up all day about how that can benefit the body if you really feel like you're in a stagnancy. I have used even like, there's a component of like, there's a huge movement for celery juicing. Got to know how much your body really needs of that, because you don't want to be doing that for too long for like nutrient depletions and things like that. But I have found that a little bit of celery juicing, I do incorporate that into my day, and it helps get the bowels moving in the morning and just making sure you rehydrate and everything after. But yeah, a lot of, even if you go to like the local, like Dirt Juicery in Green Bay, is a really great place, but they have stuff, they have like a whole, I think it's like a beets and greens and apple, because apple is really good too for the liver. Helps kind of open up the bile ducts. But yeah.
I feel like I see a lot more commercials now for greens, right? And so you can get things from these different companies. So do you have any recommendations or like a list that you can point people to when it comes to certain brands for things? So whether it's greens or whether it's household products or whether it's lotions and beauty products, is there anything you can point people to so that they know they're getting reputable brands?
Absolutely. Honestly, I just like know that's part of my job when I'm working with them. Like my clients get that. I do have clients that literally you have access to like asking me any questions you want, because I think that's what you should have it with your healthcare provider, your partner, whoever you will, but they trust my recommendations. So I do have clients who are like, okay, I ran out of this like protein powder. Can you point me in a direction that's like clean and plant-based or whatever it is? Or, they'll message me and ask me where is a clean place that they can get beauty products. And I definitely am trying to give them like good local resources if they want to pick it up at a store locally. And that's where I'm going to be a huge advocate for local businesses that are doing beautiful things for our community to help support them as well. And then, there's some different places. Like people ask me about, like you said, like laundry detergent. I use a company called doTERRA just because of, honestly, I'm pretty busy, so I like the hub of just being able to buy some stuff like all at once in one spot. But Branch Basics is another one that I use for like laundry detergent. But these companies actually, and there's beauty companies too, Ro, Casa, Primally Pure, some of these bigger ones online, they are coming out now with products on the regular every day because of the things that are happening to women in the community. And so they know there's a need for it. So if you stay in touch with them, they're always going to be coming up with these new products.
Awesome. That's super helpful. So we covered a lot in this episode. And I think what I don't want is people to walk away feeling super overwhelmed with, I'm doing everything wrong in my life and I need to switch everything now. So if we just take a step back, what would you recommend, like top 2 or 3 things that people could start with to start leading their way to a more non-toxic lifestyle?
Yes, for sure. I want y'all to feel human, and I want to tell you straight up. It took me like years, like 2 to 3 years, I feel like, to really clean up my environment. And I definitely feel like I'm in a place where I'm living my best life despite being older. But my biggest things for sure is just to start to look at the things around your environment. I can help you with that. I have lists. I give a list of things to all my clients after their initial visit of things that are literally just foundational and what I call fundamental things. We can't even work on maybe XYZ of what's going on in your body with chronic health stuff unless we have these foundations laid first. And again, that's just the stuff. Get yourself sweating and having bowel movements and get yourself sleeping. Sleep is the foundation to health. So if you are not sleeping, you are not sleeping restoratively for 7 to 8 hours. Women, you do need more, so don't feel guilty about that. Men don't need as much as sleep sometimes. But if you're not soundly sleeping, like you shouldn't be waking up in the middle of the night. If you're getting like that 2 to 4 a.m., we may have adrenal issues, hormone issues. Chinese medicine says, liver issues. So we got to get you sleeping like soundly throughout the night because you should wake up with energy and feel restored. And that's going to be like the ultimate thing that helps your wellness and your ability to basically carry out and follow through with these other recommendations that we're working on. So that's probably my number one thing. And just clean drinking water. There, I said that too.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for those tips. And thank you for this podcast and all 4 of them. Really, this is 4 out of 4. If you guys have not listened to our other podcast that we did with Kim, we talked deep into gut health. We talked about hormone balancing, and Kim told her story, and we talked about functional medicine in general in episode 1. Make sure you go back and listen to all of those. But Kim, I know you are kind of becoming known for running these awesome events in the community. We talked about in the gut health one, you're doing a parasite cleanse, a guided parasite cleanse in the future. You've also done some things in the past. So if people want to keep in touch with your community events, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, definitely sign up for my newsletter through my website. And I do try to put all my stuff through the Motherhood Alliance. I'm trying to link those on there. Sometimes I forget about things, but trying to keep it all organized. And then I post all of them on Instagram or Facebook now, so you can stay up to date through them. Yeah, we've had some great turnout for these events, and I give so much away. Like I said, I can give all the information about like what supplements and things to take, but it still will come down to all the personalized approach of what's going on in your body, because not everybody will need XYZ. But we've done like our very first one we did like back in March at like Station 1 Brewing in Swamico area, and it was a phenomenal turnout. We had like 60 women there and just so much education provided. I had done another one, I think like 2 months later, and that was like deep diving into all things thyroid, because we know that there's so many thyroid irregularities and imbalances going on right now for women. And again, that's like your whole master regulator for your body. So we need that to be in check for sure. I've done one about gut health. That was actually when I first started at the pharmacy. So I think I'll have to do another one, because that seems to be, I do little polls on my Instagram about what topics you guys want me to talk about, but that's definitely a much sought after one. So I'll probably have to do a free community educational event about that one.
Awesome. Dre and I are definitely going to be watching all your different events coming up because I'm super interested to learn more. So thank you so much for joining us for all of these episodes. You are a wealth of knowledge, and we are so thankful to not only have you be a part of the Motherhood Alliance community, but be an awesome resource for people all over. One final question. Do you work with people virtually? So no matter where they're from, you can work with them?
Yep, absolutely. I already have clients in different states right now. Yep.
Awesome.
So
That's
amazing.
great to know. Cool. Thank you so much, Kim. And listeners, we will be back with you in the next episode. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.